All right. Enough people have been asking about the doll tier list. So here we are. We started making them as requested because people have been wondering where should they put their dolls in, which one should they level up. This is a lot of the top players have been kind of using. Some people kind of prioritize some a little differently because of the most recent solar raid, but for the most part there are some different prioritizations. So here we are. But first, just to give you guys a general idea, this is basically the main takeaway from the doll in terms of just giving a priority. The sniper rifle and rocket launcher and shotgun and submachine guns are the ones that have the best effects right now for the dolls, because the shotgun and submachine gun does increase the multiplier for the attack, and the sniper rifle and rocket launcher for their charge multiplier. The downside for rocket launchers right now is there's not really that many great rocket launchers aside primarily from Scarlet Black Shadow and Laplace. There's not many other like high value units. And then for submachine gun, there's also not enough good DPS, so that's why that's the issue right now. For assault rifle, one of the issue is they do give increase in core bonus, but assault rifles in general just do have low hit rate, especially like the farther it is from the enemy, there's like less chance from them on hitting the core. And so the main Nikke that takes advantage of the assault rifle core damage bonus is Snow White. But other than that, maybe you could argue that Scarlet and Dorothy have some positive things on it, but I'll talk about more on it later. And then machine gun, it does have the weakest effect on them because it does increase max ammo, but then max ammos are obtainable via just overloads. And I think this doll things is kind of their way to balance out every other units DPSs aside from machine gun. That's what I see from this takeaway. But all right, let's start off with the tier list. The highest absolute priority is Scarlet Black Shadow, Red Hood, and Alice. It's gonna be hard to go wrong with upgrading these. Now, the next high priority though is Crown, Naga, Summer Anise, Noir, and Maxwell. Now, a lot of you are going to be wondering, okay, you just said that Crown or machine guns are not great, but why is Crown? And that's because the positive on this is Crown is going to be used in like pretty much like all teams and likely going to be your team 1 or team 2. And she is going to give buffs, and your buffs scale based on your base attack, and dolls give base attack. And so this is really good for Crown, especially as someone that is defender who has like low attack to begin with. So the dolls would give her more buffs for everyone else. And then Naga in the same manner, and also being a shotgun, right? Naga is a top tier unit, as is pretty much like top team 1, right? And then for campaign, you also use Naga anyways. You're just not gonna go wrong with giving her one. And her buffs, if she do burst, like if you're not using Crown and you do Tia Naga, will scale based on her base attack. So you do want to use Naga as well. And her being a shotgun, and as I mentioned right earlier, shotgun being one of the better ones, she will benefit from getting a damage increase. Summer Anise, she's used in Solar Raid and also in PvP, so that's why I kind of put her up there. For Noir though, I know some people are gonna be wondering like, okay, Noir, sometimes like she steals buff, when Alice and Maxwell are there, she does steal buff technically, but then that's really just like those two, the primary ones, and it's not really too much of a concern in many other situations. So I wouldn't like try to nerf Noir's buffing capability, because again, her buff is based on the base attack also, and so that's why it's a good thing. And not to mention her being a shotgun, she usually is like on the higher end of DPS compared to support other supports, and her being an attacker also, and then scaling with the doll bonus effect also. There you go. It's just there's just a lot of synergy to that, and so that's why I kind of put her up in the high priority as well. And then Maxwell, she has just been useful in a lot of other situations, so that's why I would put Maxwell up there as well. Now, the next one is this one is actually, I'm kind of iffy how I would prioritize Laplace because I don't have Laplace just yet. So I'm not going to be able to compare her compared to my other DPSs and how she would perform. But I have seen some screenshots and of how Laplace performs, and she has been looking pretty good. But again, because I cannot really fully test it, she is one of the higher priority treasures, but it's just that there's not a lot of opportunity and data just yet. And then the next ones are the priority units, but they don't necessarily need the dull effect, and so that's where the machine gun comes in. Really, Ludmilla and Modernia, they don't really benefit that much, but they would be benefiting from the stats from the dolls. And D as well, even though she is sniper, so she does get some benefit from that. Her damage is not on the high end, and so you're giving her doll instead, just so that she can increase her buff also for everyone else. And litter, just because we are using litter a lot of situation, I wouldn't necessarily upgrade litter's doll in priority as opposed to probably other DPS that I'm gonna talk about. So next one is the priority for solo raids. Bunny Sodas, Snow White, and Maid Privity are just good for solo raids, and technically they are Team 4, Team 5. I put them in a separate category because it is possible that you could just completely skip them. If it's not, then you can also look into Dorothy or Scarlet. Dorothy is useful, especially like for example, if you don't have any D or letter, you could use her, or if you just need something for like your team 3 team 2, right? So she has proven track record, and with her pierce also in effect, she can be one of those that can have an easier time hitting the core because she does pierce, kind of like say in the situation for Gravedigger last solo raid. And then Scarlet primarily because she is pretty much useful also for PvP, and so that's why she is up here as well. And if you don't have any other units that are in priority, then I would upgrade Scarlet's also. Now the other three treasures, and again, we just need a lot more practical data, and a lot of people just don't have it. And even though we can theorize how good they are going to be, it's still different. Like say, okay, how are they gonna pair up in a practical sense? What if there's like solo raid? Are we really gonna choose them over the other, or are there gonna be other units that are gonna be up there over instead of these units? So I kind of put them in a little bit more low priority and in their own separate category because there's just a lot of unknowns right now, and especially by the time you probably finish them, who knows, there might be other units that would replace them also. And so that's why I'm not like fully suggesting them, because there is a possibility that they could end up just not being used at all. And the issue there is you probably would have wasted so much EXP by the time you finish that, because you have to get the SR dolls into plus 15. And so that's like the risk on that, and what are the trade-off of getting them to plus 15 first versus say other units that have proven track record like Scarlet, Black Shadow, or Red Hood, or Alice. And so that's why I kind of put them on a separate category. And then the next one is units that are useful based on the elemental advantage. So we have the iron here, which is like sugar and Soline, wind for guilty and regular D, the water and fire right here, that they could be end up being useful if we do have the elemental advantage. I don't have the electric here because technically the electric would be regular Scarlet, Maid Privity, and then Summer Anise primarily. The other electrics are not really as ideal, especially like say for solar raid. I haven't really put the electric here, and I couldn't really find anything else really that I would warrant a high priority for solar raid. At best, maybe we could put guillotine in, but I would just hold off on it. Again, the machine guns effect is not that great. And then really the last two main things are for PvP and just units that are useful, but you don't necessarily have to give doll. And I wouldn't say it's like super high priority to give them dolls on. But for PvP, I prioritize Noah and Noise because they are tanking and like because they're taunting also. And then Jackal just because she's like used in every team. And then the other units that are for fast charging and other high priority PvP units are up here. And then I put in Moron and Bay here, even though technically they're more defensive and would be beneficial in the PvP teams. Building Moron and Bay actually does require like a completely separate knowledge, and I feel like a lot of people that would make good use of them probably have like some idea already on how to use them. And the thing is, like when you're building them, it's not as generic as say the other units, like for example Noah or like Jackal, right? So the other top tier units are a lot more usable in a lot more circumstances as opposed to the other ones here. From Moron onwards here, they're not as priority as the other ones, but it's gonna be up to you because at the end of the day, it's really more for the stats, the defensive stats, and then for CP padding as well. And then this last one, useful units. These are typically supports, but you don't necessarily have to give them doll. Either they don't have like significant scaling stats, or you don't probably use them as much. I could see Tove being used for shotguns just for giving her stats, but otherwise like they're not really a high priority, and I could see a lot of people probably giving them dolls but then not leveling them up. And then these last few ones are, yeah, some units that are probably we're hoping that they could be useful if they get treasures, and maybe someday they'll find some use. It's gonna vary from really what's gonna be the meta later down the road. I could see Mast on an electric team, so maybe like I could totally see Mast like being up here if it's electric. That's something I could totally see also. Yeah, otherwise the other ones, like I can't really think too much on them. Isabel Treasure, yeah, let's keep coping, guys. Anyways, for the last ones, just ignore for now. I didn't really like give too much thought on the order for these, just ignore them for now. And then final note, this tier list didn't have Kilo in it, but Kilo is in the realm of the PvP CP padding as well. But yeah, those are the main ones. I'll try to give like an image or link for the tier list that I made here so you guys can take a look at it in a more full form. But those are the priority units that I kind of have right now, and in this particular solar raid, these are the main units that I actually leveled up. I have like a level 15 Scarlet Black Shadow, and my Red Hood is now SR plus 10, and my Alice is like plus 15 also R. And I haven't really like done my Laplace because I don't have an SR rocket launcher just yet, so I'm like holding on upgrading. Yeah, that's about it. And if you guys have any questions, just feel free to drop like a comment on YouTube or just ask me on stream. I'm usually online, twitch.tv/KaiJLV. People do ask me some things all the time, and then we do some account reviews to answer some of these questions. But yeah, that's about it. I'll see you guys next time.